Hello, if you're not new to my channel, you'll have seen that there are quite a few Robert Heinlein books reviewed or discussed here. Some of those books are pretty good, so this is my list of 5 of the best by Robert Heinlein in ascending order. If I've omitted your favourite, I may discuss it at the end, so stick around. So number 5 is Methuselah's Children. Methuselah's Children marks the first appearance of Lazarus Long, who would go on to be Heinlein's most recurring character. It tells the story of the Howard families, a group of people who have, through selective breeding, achieved incredible longevity. They are persecuted by the Muggles, and the first third of the book, clearly allegorical for the plight of Jews in Europe at the time, this was published in the early 40s, is occasionally tense, though it is typically bogged down by numerous scenes, quite lengthy scenes at times, of people talking about not very much. Their escape into the stars sees the return of Libby from Misfit, genuinely about as welcome as a fart in one of the spacesuits Heinlein will tell you so much about at length as well. Here the space adventure focuses too much on his interest in mathematics and not enough on the actual space adventure, skipping over the first contact with aliens outside of our solar system in favour of showing us a meeting about it. The moral of the story is that humans can't be domesticated, or that God is beyond our understanding. Heinlein throws ideas around like confetti in the last 2/3 of the book, and where one occasionally sticks, it goes some way into explaining why this is something of a fan favourite. The next book that I've chosen is Revolt in 2100. I have a more detailed review of this online. It's a collection of short stories of varying length. If this goes on, again from the early 1940s, is a prototype for the later The Moon is a Harsh Mistress. Coventry is the pick of the stories, though it does seem Heinlein isn't fully grasping what send to Coventry actually means. The last story is Misfit, featuring the aforementioned Libby, which is an utter waste of space, but thankfully short. If this goes on is okay, Coventry is good, Misfit ignorable. This one is worth checking out if you're new to Heinlein or want to get into the golden age of sci-fi, the sort of stories that were published in the 40s and 50s in periodicals like Astounding Science Fiction Stories. Number 3 on my list is Have Spacesuit Will Travel. This is one of the later juveniles, coming out in 1957, I think. This follows Kip. Fresh from winning an old spacesuit in a soap competition, Kip is drawn into the adventures of the Mother Thing and Pee-wee. Again, I have a longer review of this online, so I'll just say that the middle section, where Kip is escaping from gangsters on the moon, is about as exciting as anything by Heinlein. This book again wastes an enormous amount of time on uninteresting maths problems, but skip those parts, and this genuinely has its moments. The second one on my list is Starship Troopers. Now, I have a long video about the politics of this book, but I have no actual review online. This book is 30% space adventure, 70% political hectoring. However, its reputation alone makes this something you should probably check out. People who say Heinlein was never afraid to ruffle feathers are a little on the wrong side. Prior to this point, he really did what he needed to do to get published, but this marked a turning point where his success and basically his bloody-mindedness meant that he was going to do what he wanted to do. And what he wanted to do was educate people on the perils of not having a strong military and not smacking your children. The politics are very in your face, and they were offensive even to some people way back in 1959. The space adventure is simplistic, and really it just serves as an excuse, a corkboard really, to pin the politics on. The boot camp, much like in the film, is probably the most interesting part. The hardware of the Space Marines obviously would go on to be hugely influential in science fiction. Check out my video on the politics if you're interested in this book. This is one I do recommend that you check out, but mostly that is to see what all the fuss is about. So my number 1, my favourite of all the Heinlein books that I've read, is The Puppet Masters. This one is again from the 1940s. It's a classic piece of red peril paranoia. Aliens come to Earth, brain overriding parasites that want to take over everything. The old man, the narrator, Sam, who is some kind of special agent, and his future wife Mary are the only ones who can save mankind. The plot zips along, floundering only briefly when Sam and Mary stop to get married. The depiction of an America that's slowly going dark in the efforts to prevent the spread of the danger is genuinely well crafted. It's particularly interesting because, of course, America had always relied on its ocean defense. So this is like a depiction of actually a physical invasion, which would have been, if you'll forgive the word, quite alien a concept. So this is genuinely well crafted. It's tense, it's exciting. This is the sort of book that somebody could build a reputation on. I've not read anything from Heinlein I describe as being as well done or as enjoyable as this, and that's the important word there, is enjoyable. If you want to get into Heinlein to experience some of what made the golden age of science fiction golden, this is where you should start. So did I omit your favourite? I probably did, and here are some of the books I didn't include and why. Star Beast, which is described by Brian Aldiss as a precursor to E.T., and it has some of Heinlein's trademark subversion. It also has positive racial messages from a book in the 50s, which was pretty rare, as you can probably imagine. Star Beast, along with Heinlein's first Hugo winner, Double Star, in which a failed actor replaces the kidnapped president of Earth, they're both well regarded, even by Aldiss, who is generally not complimentary about Heinlein's work. I haven't included these because I haven't read them yet. I just haven't been able to track down a copy of them at the moment. I didn't include The Moon as a Harsh Mistress because, in my opinion, it is quite bloated at 408 pages, because the open marriages message is a tired Heinlein trope that I really can live without, and because it's been done before in other Heinlein stories, most notably in the far more readable If This Goes On, which I included on number 4 on my list. So most people would have expected to see Stranger in a Strange Land on this list, and I have recently reread it, as you can see, because it's still got my notes in the cover. There are messages here that will resonate with some, not just Charles Manson, who was apparently a fan. This book is not so much about free love as some will have you believe. It is instead the first overt step in Heinlein pushing his group marriage concept that will fill his later work. But while you don't have to be a psychopath to enjoy this book, you do have to enjoy Jubal Harshaw, the most Heinlein of all of Heinlein's pedagogic old men. The first third of this book carries a genuine sense of threat. While Michael Valentine Smith, freshly returned from being raised by Martians, is imperiled, this is very readable. Once he is delivered into the clutches of Harshaw, the book ceases to be about anything much other than Harshaw's long-winded explanations about why everything is wrong. For such a committed individualist as Heinlein, I found his depiction of Jill and Dawn's metamorphosis into each other as being quite unpleasant, and made more so by Ben's creepy behaviour around them. The depiction of homosexuality is wrong, but the obvious titillation with suggested lesbianism is also hypocritical. The focus on dreary old Harshaw's pontificating while outside genuine peril is occurring to Smith and his cult is also a genuine shame. This book has a lot of fans who are no doubt hammering dislike as I speak. I genuinely enjoyed the first 50 to 60 pages of this as much as anything by Heinlein, but unfortunately the book has another 400. What you tend to get with Heinlein, which is why I tend to prefer his early work, is early work tends to be streamlined, and the later work, you see that I've got 2 books there published after 1960 that are thicker than 4 books published before 1960. So you can see that the later work really tends to be slow. It tends to be really packed with a lot of talking and a lot less energy than what made Heinlein great when he was at the peak of his powers, which is in the 40s and early 50s. Thank you for watching. I hope you're inspired to check out some of the work by Robert Heinlein, widely regarded as the Dean of Science Fiction. In the description you can find a link to all of my videos on Robert Heinlein. There are quite a few, so feel free to check some of those out, and perhaps some of my other content if you're interested in science fiction or just books in general. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.